Greeting lecturer and classmates. This is the presentation of Reading 23, which title is Make Students Part of the Solution, Not the Problem by Trevor Gardner. This presentation will be presented by me, Yamila, and my teammate Marinelle. Here is our content for today's presentation. In this reading, we are going to introduce all of you to a perspective of problem with better solution so that educational system will treat students in a more considerate way besides giving only negative punishment for students. Without any further delay, let's get started. Looking into the title, it seems a little unusual in some contexts as we have already acknowledged that educational systems tend to be unavoidable to encounter problems of discipline in school which is caused mostly by students. Generally, whenever something is of occurring in disciplinary issue, school authorities are highly likely to set rules for the one who violates the rule with various kinds of punishment, with the beliefs to ease out the problem in the system. In contrast, according to Trevor Gardner, he raised concerns that students are the main point in educational system that schools have to design social and educational development for students. However, we can see that students are not that well influenced over this process that they gain no control in formal curriculum as well as the school functioning. Trevor Gardner considers what happens when students are given more control over their lives in school by looking at their role within disciplinary processes at school. In their Student Justice Panel is what Gardner believes that school can make students part of the solution instead of the problems. In order to go deep into detail on what actually a problem or the solution as Gardner concerned, we shall move to the illustration occurring in one school. Before doing that, there are some questions for us to consider. Number one, why according to Trevor Gardner do students not abuse the power that they have in student justice panels? What compels them to want to balance their responsibilities with their both peers and school officials? Number two, some research has found student justice panels are more effective than suspension when dealing with disciplinary issues. Why do you think that may be the case? Last but not least, if researchers wanted to use the power of comparisons to learn how justice panels may work differently in different kinds of school, what type of school would they select as research site to see how local environment influence the effective of the panels? You may have some ideas after reading the question, so to provide you more detail, let us go to the scenario that is the illustration of today's reading. This scenario happens in a high school located in San Francisco that covers about 400 students. The problem arises here. There's a chaotic argument between student and student at lunchtime that students keep arguing with each other until Ms. Johnson, the school principal, arrives that leads every student to behave well in front of her except for Jose. Jose saw the ignorant behavior by throwing the apple in front of Ms. Johnson, and he denied the fact that he is throwing it. Then, the 17th Jose is now confronting with school authority and encountering his punishment of a 5-day suspension. The problem was not completely solved here after Jose facing the suspension, since TCS has the restorative and responsive approach to student discipline, which is known as SJP. It stands for Student Justice Panel. Before getting to know how SJP solved the problem, we shall know in detail of what is SJP and its core value. As I have mentioned earlier that SJP stands for Student Justice Panel, it refers to a restorative justice model of school discipline in the purpose of upholding school core value by working to restore damaged relationship between individual and community. SJP made up of 12 student leaders nominated by teachers and peers. Its belief is based on strongly maintaining core value, discipline, growth, community, justice, and respect, the responsibility of individual for community as a whole, and it is believed that PCS function best when students have leadership and are given strong voice. Consists of adult facilitator, the community members involve violation of core value, at least four representatives of SJP, parents or family member depending on the needs, petitioners, and respondents. Everyone in the hearing, including respondents, will propose and discuss consequences aimed at a restoration, and the SJP will decide to take a course of action. Its shift in restorative justice was largely a bottom-up movement. Since TCS policy is by no means relied on punishment or removing bad students, they are likely to help students transform mistakes and bad choices into learning experience. Hence, PCS need to follow their true core values such as community, that they need to work hard and take responsibility for the success of all members in the community. Secondly, respect, which they seek to see the best of each other and treat one another with dignity. Last but not least is justice, which is the empowerment of social justice and equity, that everyone deserves equal treatment. After the problem arises, SJP members learn that it is innocuous for Jose to get suspension just because of throwing an apple, due to the fact that they need to stand for their true core value. They start to form a meeting with their members and raise concerns about things happening on Jose. Not only they appoint right away to Ms. Johnson, since they are SJP member, they also need to discuss and provide logical reasoning in order to convince the principal to follow their solution as well as suggestions. After critically discussing about Jose's problem, they need to propose their solution by confronting with Mer's principal. To know what happened in the meeting, Mariner will continue telling the confrontation of SJP and school authority in the meeting, and he will tell all of you about the result and also the overall reflection and what has happened so far in today's presentation. Now the stage will belong to my teammate Mariner. Thank you.
Now let's move on to the next part, which is the meeting. After the incidents, two of the SJP Student Justice Panel representatives come and have conversation with Ms. Johnson. They have raised that Jose needs to be punished. However, the punishment does not fit the crime. It is true that Jose had thrown the apple in the cafeteria, but a 5-day suspension is not right. Instead, it doesn't really benefit anyone. It's only worse for Jose because he couldn't go to school and he can't be learning. Instead, when he come back to school, he need to catch up with the other student by learning those lessons he had missed during his absence. So the SJP member has suggested that Jose still have to face the consequences, but he will be allowed to return to school next day on three conditions. And three conditions are: the first one is to write a letter of apology to the janitor, and the second one is to stay after lunch to clean up for a week, and the last one is to write a reflection about which core value he violated and what it means to be responsible for his actions at school. Miss Johnson accepted the proposal, and Jose agreed to the condition too, so he came to school the very next day. However, after a few days, Jose failed to follow one of his commitment, which is staying after lunch to clean up the cafeteria. But In the following day, he followed through on the rest of his agreement because member of SJP already spoke with him uh, that it is critical for everyone, whether it is for him or other student, since he can be set as an example that student must follow the rule, and since SJP helped him, it shows that students have the voice to complain when there's something wrong and needs to be changed. In reflection to this reading, we can see that Jose did make a mistake, but the punishment was too much. I mean, by suspending him for 5 days doesn't help literally anything, but it is just unfair for Jose, even he did wrong. However, at the end of the story, SJP members and Miss Johnson agree to let Jose come to school the very next day. So instead of creating another problem, they chose to make Jose a part of solution. And by doing that, it makes students follow the rule better, and they believe that they have the voice to express their feeling when they see that there's something isn't right. And that's the end of our presentation. We hope that we have present the reading to you, and if you have any question, you can ask us later. So thank you.